It is day 2 of the Sean Diddy Combs federal trial. Combs' ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, she is one of Combs' many accusers, testifying as a central witness.
Is she ready?
Very ready and confident. Thank you.
Among other things, the singer is expected to address the 2016 video of Combs attacking her in a hotel when she was his girlfriend.
They called him a kingmaker, a mogul, the mastermind of hip-hop's golden empire. But the moment Cassie Ventura took the stand, everything began to collapse. Diddy's face turned ghostly pale as she dropped bombshell after bombshell, allegations. So dark, even seasoned courtroom reporters were stunned. The man who built an empire suddenly looked like he couldn't breathe. Cassie didn't hold back. She exposed it all, every chilling moment behind closed doors.
She walked in there, Rachel. She had on a brown dress, form-fitting, visibly pregnant, head held high, and did not make any eye contact with the defendant, with Sean Combs. She said that Sean Combs directed everything from what she had on to the lighting in the room to how she was supposed to interact with the person that she was having sex with. And again, just to reiterate what is a freak off, the freak off essentially was something that Cassie said she learned about through Sean Combs about a year into their relationship. He described it as voyeurism, wanting to watch her have sex with someone else. And she said that she did it because she was 22, 21. She was young. She didn't know any better, and that she wanted to please Sean Combs.
Among other things, the singer is expected to address the 2016 video of Combs attacking her in a hotel when she was his girlfriend. Combs has pleaded not guilty. His attorneys argue the video is evidence of jealousy, not sex trafficking. And now for the first time, jurors are hearing what Cassie has to say about that and other aspects of their 10-year relationship.
For decades, Sean Diddy Combs didn't just walk through the music industry. He owned it. He built Bad Boy Records from scratch, turned unknowns into global icons, and morphed himself into a billionaire brand. Music, fashion, vodka, media. To the world, he was untouchable. A mogul, a mastermind. But behind that picture-perfect empire, there was something no one saw coming. While the magazines worshipped his business moves, while fans screamed his name from the front row, Cassie Ventura was allegedly trapped in a reality so dark, it's shaking the industry to its core. That polished image, the custom suits, the red carpet smiles, it was all a performance. Because if what's unfolding in court is true, Diddy wasn't a mentor. He was a mask. Day 1 of testimony hit hard. But when Cassie walked into court yesterday, everything shifted. Diddy arrived like a mogul, flanked by high-powered attorneys, nodding to the press, even flashing a confident smile. He looked like a man headed to a deal, not a reckoning. But then she started speaking. Within 30 minutes, the energy changed. The calm cracked. The confidence? Gone. Witnesses say his swagger vanished. He couldn't sit still. He started fidgeting. Tie, cuffs, fingers. Then came the notes. Frantic, desperate, passed to his lawyers in a blur. One attorney had to raise a hand. Slow down. One court reporter said it was like watching someone realize they'd lost control for the first time ever. His face? Drained of color, like someone pulled the power plug on a king. Observers watched him shut his eyes again and again. As Cassie calmly detailed the past he fought to keep buried, this wasn't just a courtroom moment. It was a collapse in real time, and it wasn't over. Because what Cassie said next would ignite shockwaves that could burn the foundation Diddy built. This wasn't a scandal. It was an eruption. The man who controlled careers, negotiated billion-dollar deals, couldn't even control his own story. And what's more terrifying? This was only the beginning. As Cassie continued, the industry, the courtroom, the entire internet held its breath because the next bombshell she dropped could destroy everything. They've been hiding this for years. Fans had no idea. Now the world is asking, was Diddy ever who we thought he was?
And at some point in time, she actually had said that she looked forward to the freak-offs. Why did Cassie express looking forward to these said freak-offs?
When the prosecution asked her, was there ever a time that you enjoyed the freak-offs? This is when Cassie got choked up and she said, I did, but only because I got to spend one-on-one time with Combs and I really did love him.
And that is speaking to the psychological abuse in addition to the physical abuse that she potentially experiences.
Yeah, she's definitely laying out someone who was young, who was influenced by wanting to have this record career. She signed a 10-album deal with Bad Boy Entertainment, led by Sean Combs, and basically describes being enamored by Sean Combs, loving him, not knowing about certain things sexually, and him sort of telling her, teaching her about that. And what you hear is someone that was young and said, and she even said, I was young, I was naive, I didn't know any better. But she's really telling the story of someone who thought she was going to be with someone in this music industry that was going to help her career, that cared about her, but quickly learned after the freak-offs that wasn't the case. And what I thought was also interesting is she said that after that first freak-off, she said she felt dirty. She didn't want to do it. And when she brought up the idea of having a conversation about the freak-offs in an email, which the jurors saw, she said she backpedaled in the email because Combs responded by saying, I know, you don't want to do it. And she said, oh, no, well, it's not that. But that was the beginning. That was in 2010, where she brings up in an email that she wanted to have a conversation about this. And in her words, she didn't want to do it, but she felt like she had to do it.
Well, Diane, prosecutors have wasted no time getting right into the alleged abuse that Cassie Ventura says she endured for years. Ventura telling jurors, quote, he would bash my head, knock me over, drag me, kick me, stomp me in the head when I was down. She also got into the nature of those so-called freak-offs, saying that they involved hiring an escort and they performed under the direction of Combs, saying that they happened so frequently it eventually became a job for her to set them up. Ventura said she did not feel she had much of a choice but to participate, that she feared that Combs would retaliate or potentially blackmail her if she did not. And she's had at times to she's taken deep breaths, pausing her testimony, Combs appearing to be listening pretty passively with his hands in his lap at the defense table there.
When Cassie Ventura stepped onto the witness stand, you could almost hear the room hold its breath. No cameras, no music, just silence, and a storm waiting to explode. Everyone knew something was coming, but no one was ready for this. Not the press, not the fans, not even Diddy's army of top-dollar attorneys. Because after years of whispers, years of carefully worded denials, Cassie finally spoke. And what she said could bring down everything. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She began calmly, almost cold, which made every word hit even harder. She was just 19. Diddy? Already a music giant. We're talking yachts, penthouses, bodyguards, rooms full of yes men. She was hopeful. He was powerful. And according to her, he knew it and used it. First, the little things. Who she was with. Where she was. He allegedly demanded constant updates. Then came the control. Not love. Control. She testified that he threatened her career. Allegedly blocked collaborations, shelved her music, even ruined deals if he felt insecure. But it got worse. She claimed he installed tracking software on her phone. He'd know where she was before she even ordered a drink. And slowly, people around her disappeared. Friends? Cut off. Support system? Gone. Until he was the only voice left. In court, Diddy couldn't stay still. He was twitching, fidgeting. His public mask slipping fast. The judge had to call for order. 3 separate times. Each time he tried to compose himself, but it didn't last. And then Cassie pulled out her phone, and the courtroom cracked open. Text messages, emails, proof. Messages where he allegedly admitted violence, messages that contradicted everything his PR had ever said. He didn't know she kept them. She had receipts, but the worst was still coming. Cassie then described being thrown into walls, pushed downstairs, choked until she nearly blacked out, only stopping when her body went limp. Jurors were frozen, reporters speechless, some even crying. And that was still before the hotel incident, the one event that could blow this trial and Diddy's legacy wide open. So here's the real question. If this is what we've heard so far, what haven't we heard yet? What's still hiding behind those locked hotel doors?
Cassie's relationship with Diddy. Some of those details we've seen in prior lawsuits, but to hear her on the stand actually giving those details, reliving those moments herself, Also, you have to remember, she's very pregnant right now. So I'm going to be curious to see how long she makes it on the stand, how she's emotionally able to weather all of these questions. And what's going to be interesting to watch is, the defense from the very start in their opening statement said that she chose to be there. So I'm going to be curious to see how she responds to questions about, was this her choice, or did she feel like she had to do all of these things?
I think what made Cassie emotional is having to describe the details of the freak off and why she did it. When she talked about wanting to do it to please Sean Combs, that's when she broke down. Up until that point, she had just been answering the questions. She's a little soft-spoken at times, but that's when she got emotional. When she had to answer the question about if she enjoyed it, that's when she broke down, because she said, I enjoyed being with Sean Combs. And she says, I did it because it made him happy.
What did the expressions of the jurors look like?
The jurors are laser focused on what Cassie has to say. And that's to be expected, right? Because she is the person who will likely be on the stand, according to attorneys, for 2, maybe 3 days. She's the one that was in the relationship with Sean Combs for over 10 years. So she's got a lot to say, and she's just getting started.
Just how important is Cassie's testimony to the prosecution?
I think it really connects the dots, Rachel. When you look at that initial indictment and what's being alleged, she really is the person that has probably the most information about this idea that the prosecution says, which is creating a criminal enterprise for Sean Combs' sexual desires. Something else that the jurors saw today that sort of connects it back to this alleged criminal enterprise are 7 photos of people that were very close to Sean Combs, one even his former chief of staff. And these were all people that Cassie Ventura was able to name and explain the functions in terms of what they did: security, driver, chief of staff, someone that handled financials. So it's showing that she knew some of these people, again, because she was with him, around him for so long.
I thought I was going to die that night. Cassie's voice trembled, soft but sharp, cutting through the air like a razor. The entire courtroom froze. Not a cough, not a whisper. It was like time itself held its breath. Because what she was about to say, no one saw it coming. Not the media, not the fans, not even the most ruthless gossip blogs had caught wind of this. This was the story she had buried deep. So deep, she swore she'd never let it surface. Until now. They called it the 4 Seasons incident. But what Cassie described sounded more like a psychological thriller than a breakup gone wrong. She said she'd hidden the truth for years because she was scared. Not just scared of losing her career, but scared of losing herself. Because when you're up against someone with that much power, the silence feels safer than the truth. But that day on the stand, she didn't hold anything back. According to her, the night started out like any other music industry after party. Celebrities laughing, glasses clinking, cameras flashing. But then it happened. Diddy saw her speaking to another music exec. And in seconds, everything changed. She said his smile disappeared, his hand locked around her arm. Hard. Hard enough to bruise. Hard enough to send a message. He leaned in, whispered something in her ear. What he said, we may never know. But Cassie's face said it all. And the terrifying part, all of this was happening while people stood just feet away, laughing, unaware. She claimed he dragged her through the hotel lobby in front of everyone. She cried, tried to pull away. People noticed. A security guard finally stepped in, but when he saw who it was, he asked Diddy, not Cassie, if things were okay. Diddy smiled, said everything was fine, and just like that, the guard walked away. Cassie said, he didn't even ask me if I was okay. That sentence hit the room like a punch to the gut. Then came the photos. Photos that shut down every whisper of doubt. Her lawyer displayed a series of images Cassie took herself the morning after. Bruised arms, split lip, red welts on her neck. These weren't polished images. They were grainy, off-center, snapped in a foggy bathroom mirror. And somehow, that made them even more disturbing. Cassie said she took them to protect herself, because she knew if she ever spoke out, she'd need proof. That's when Diddy's legal team pounced. Objection after objection, trying to keep those photos from being seen. They argued everything. Not authenticated. Could have come from anywhere. Should have been submitted earlier. But the judge shut it down. Each photo appeared on the courtroom screen, and the jury's faces said everything. A woman covered her mouth. 2 men couldn't even look. Another juror clutched her pen so tightly her knuckles went white. This was the twist no one was ready for. Not Diddy, not his team, not even the courtroom reporters, some of whom were seen blinking back tears. Cassie went on. Her voice cracked, but her story never wavered. She said Diddy lost it, threw a champagne bottle at her. It missed by inches, shattered against the wall. He flipped furniture, smashed a lamp, punched a hole in the bathroom door. But the most terrifying claim? He wouldn't let her leave. She said he held her there for over 48 hours, took her phone, threatened her if she tried to reach out. For 2 days, she said she felt like a prisoner in a luxury suite. No windows to the outside world. Just fear and silence. As she finished telling it, all eyes turned to Diddy. And what they saw will likely be replayed for years. He wasn't just shaken, he was exposed. And maybe, for the first time in his life, completely powerless. This single testimony has already shifted the narrative. But the question haunting everyone now is, if this was the secret Cassie buried for years, what else is still locked behind closed hotel doors?
I think what the defense is going to say is that this wasn't blackmail, this was not coercion, this was consensual. We know that Cassie started out with Sean Combs as an early person, with someone who is trying to get her career started, and he was going to help her. That's what the defense is going to say, that she was starting out and wanted someone to support her. They did their first record deal together. That's something I think the defense is going to focus on, and had it not been for Sean Combs, she wouldn't be where she is right now. The prosecution obviously is saying he was in control. It may have started out as a consensual. It may have started out with her being excited about seeing him, but ultimately he took control of that relationship. He took control of her career. This is their key witness, and she's on that stand trying to explain all of the charges that the prosecution wants to hit home with that jury.
No, there was a moment early on when Cassie mentioned Dallas Austin, who she called a friend, who's a producer. So I don't know if that's someone that we're going to hear from. We know that there were pictures shown to prospective jurors that are well-known celebrities, Kanye West, Kid Cudi, Lauren London. We don't know, though, how they fit yet into why they were even asked, do you know these people? Are you familiar with them?
So the prosecution is questioning Cassie right now, still questioning her.
The defense hasn't even got a chance to, that might change based on the timing, but, because she's such a key witness, it's likely that she will be on that stand the rest of the day. We learned that Cassie referred to him as Pop Pop, and Sean Combs would refer to her as CC. The prosecution says, what does CC stand for? She said Cassie Combs.
What kind of witness is Cassie coming off as to the jurors?
I think naturally when you look at her visually, people see that she's pregnant and looking like she's due any day now. So they might, have empathy, sympathy for her in that way, but we don't really know. We know that they've been instructed to be fair and impartial. As to what type of witness she's coming off as, she's describing someone that she was, someone she said that was trying to figure out who she was at that time and who she was allowed to be. Now you're looking at somebody that's almost 40 years old, totally different person, but even in describing what was going on at her at that time, taking drugs, trying to please Sean Combs, she's really just sort of laying out the case for her not having a lot of control. So I think that's the takeaway. This is someone who is making it very clear that at that particular time in her life, she says she did not have any control really over what she wore, what she did, who she was having sex with. She's a different person now. But I think when she talks about those details and even reflecting on them for herself, as we saw today, she broke down on that.
He walked into that courtroom like a king. Untouchable, unbothered, untouchable. But he didn't walk out the same man. What happened inside that courtroom shook the walls of Diddy's empire, and no one saw it coming. This wasn't just another celebrity trial. This was an unraveling. For decades, Diddy built his reputation on being the guy in control, the mogul, the mastermind, always 3 steps ahead. But the moment Cassie took the stand, the game changed. And Diddy, he lost it. Not figuratively, not privately. He literally snapped. Right there, in front of the jury, the judge, the press. The man who was once the cool, composed center of every room he walked into became unrecognizable. Courtroom reporters, seasoned, cynical, seen-it-all professionals, said they'd never witnessed a transformation like this. One minute, Diddy was the polished, unshakable titan who had strolled in that morning. The next, he looked like a man drowning, cornered, frantic, exposed. Cassie's testimony wasn't just a story, it was a reckoning. And as her words cut deeper, Diddy began to unravel. Every revelation she shared stripped away another layer of his carefully maintained image. Witnesses said he shrank in his chair, shoulders tense, face pale. His lead attorney kept reaching over, hand on his arm, whispering, calming. One lawyer passed him a note. It read, in bold caps, "Stay calm," but it was too late for calm because when Cassie started recounting an incident at Diddy's Hampton house, something about that story hit a nerve. Diddy slammed his hand on the table. The crack echoed across the room. The judge froze. Everyone turned. "Mr. Combs," the judge said sternly, "if you can't control yourself, I will have you removed." And for a second, it looked like he might be. But this was only the beginning. As Cassie described more, his rage, his threats, his control, Diddy was seen shaking his head, mouthing, "That's not true," completely forgetting the jury was watching his every move. You could feel the shift, the power he'd always had in their relationship. Gone. Cassie was in control now. And for the first time, he couldn't silence her. He couldn't buy her silence. Couldn't hide behind his team. Couldn't delete what was already spoken. And then, just when it felt like we'd hit the peak, Cassie dropped the bombshell. She had recordings, actual audio, his voice, his threats. The courtroom went still. Cassie's attorney hit play, and suddenly Diddy shot out of his seat, shouting directly at her, "You know that's not how it happened." His legal team scrambled to restrain him. It took 3 lawyers to pull him back into his chair. The judge called for an emergency recess, but the damage was already done. The man who spent his career curating perfection had just shown the world a crack in his foundation. And it was crumbling, fast. But just when everyone thought the worst was over, Cassie revealed she had more. Photos, screenshots, texts, emails, proof, real, raw, time-stamped. Evidence she'd quietly been collecting for years, storing in multiple places, anticipating a day like this. Documents even Diddy's team couldn't bury or erase. And then came the most chilling part. Cassie told the court she had texts from other celebrities, people who had witnessed things, people who had stayed quiet. Until now. One message from a top rapper read, "You okay? What I saw tonight wasn't right. You can stay at my place if you need to." Another, from a female pop star, "I've known him 15 years. I've never seen him act like that. Please call me." And then, a long-time producer, someone who had built music history with Diddy. He wrote, "I told him to get help. I can't be around this anymore. Call me when you're safe." The jury sat in stunned silence. Even Diddy's own texts betrayed him. "I'm sorry about last night," one read. "You know how I get when I drink. It won't happen again." Another, "Whatever you need to make this right. New car, new apartment, whatever." And then a third, a chilling offer. $2 million, clean break. You don't talk about anything from the past 5 years. The courtroom watched as members of Diddy's entourage, those same friends who arrived with him, who had filled the seats behind him, started slipping out quietly, one by one. They didn't want to be there anymore. By the time this part of testimony ended, Diddy sat nearly alone. The power, the image, the myth, gone. And as day 2 wrapped, the world saw a very different Diddy than the one who walked in. Not the mogul, not the kingmaker, but a man who might be watching his empire collapse in real time. Cassie didn't just testify today, she reclaimed her voice. And maybe, just maybe, she changed the course of music history. Because if what she says is true, and if that evidence holds up, this isn't just a scandal, it's an undoing. But the question remains, is this the fall of a legend? Or just the beginning of a much darker story we've only begun to uncover?